Okay, so we'll go on to our next section and our first exercise. So I'll give you guys time to fill out your survey. But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to give you guys access. And one of the benefits of taking these series, or one of the benefits that we would like to come from you guys taking these series in general, and this this NLP part of the series specifically, is access to these tools. And I'll be able to authorize everybody who is a part of this session in gaining access to these tools. I also go through the process of helping you fill out the form and putting in the correct text as well. So I'll get that set up while you guys are completing your survey.
And we should be inside VPN?
Yes, everybody should log into VPN right now. We'll also provide links to instructions. We've already provided links to instructions on how to do this as well.
Thanks, Tor. I do have a couple of questions, if it's okay. One is, have you used these tools to try to extract more sort of clinically oriented note data on symptoms that might precede the incidence or the occurrence of a particular medical condition? Have you done that kind of inquiry?
We have not, but just thinking about it, what you can do is you can export a cohort of patients with a certain ICD diagnosis of any medical event, import that patient into cohort into Immerse, and then actually use the encounter filter function to then filter for clinical notes that are before that that medical event. So that's possibly a way to do it. We just haven't done so. Hopefully this answers the question.
Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge there's a whole bunch of us. I need to express my appreciation to Esty, who are here from outside of UCSF. We're a sort of project group from Acumen, a healthcare policy company down on the peninsula. So thanks for allowing us into this very helpful workshop. Thank you.
And welcome. So I'm going to put in the link to gaining access to Immerse, and it should take you to, you should be VPN-ed, logged into VPN. And if you click on that link, it should take you to this login page. We will say UCSF and click continue. And then you go straight to certified de-identified notes and Immerse, and you click request access. And then we will do request access to machine redacted notes and Immerse. Slot. And now request requirements, and here's the form. So account request form.
Wait. Slow down. Go back.
All right, I'll walk through that one more time, and I'll go a little more.
Account request form. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of request access, and then account request form. I'll do it one more time, just so people can see. So going back, we hit the link, and then we continue on to UCSF. That'll take us to the wiki. Uh-oh. Okay, very interesting. So it looks like it wants me to stay exactly where I was in the account request form.
Yeah. There's a network shares, create personal home network drive, grant access to network work group shares. Any recommendations for checking those?
We'll go through right now. So the first thing that you'll do, so everybody should be at account request form after get access, then account request form. It'll allow you to, it should already populate your name, requester's name, your email address, and your office phone number. Once you want to create a new account, everybody should be creating a new account. We're going to set the date for today's date.
It won't let you. It's got to be 3 days.
Then we will set it for, we'll set it for Monday. So I guess we'll all get access on Monday. Is this for bulk request? No, it is not. Request for
Look at that.
requested, yeah, same as requested by, and it'll populate your UCSF ID. It'll have your department code, and you don't want to create a new email account. No to the first three. Let's see, check any of the boxes below. We'll add the requested for a person to the Hydro database. Okay, you don't have to check any of these. And then so in the notes and special instructions area, you can put in access to Immerse, the de-identified DID-CDW, and patient explorer. You don't need this tool to ask for access to cTAKES. That's a separate service and tool that you can gain access to from the from their GitHub. And then you will hit submit.
Got it.
So just quickly, can I get a thumbs up from everybody who has submitted and that we can move forward? Okay. I think everybody is, yeah, that looks like a quorum individuals. Okay, so what will happen now is that you'll be sent an email. I will also be potentially sent an approval email. I will go ahead and approve everybody who was a part of this today's NLP series. And you will also have to sign some attestations. There'll be links to that and instructions that you'll just follow. And then you'll get a follow-up email saying that you now have access to Immerse. So not only will you have access to Patient Explorer, the de-identified CDW, which you'll be able to access using various other types of computational tools such as R and Python and SQL. But you'll also have access to Immerse, and you'll have access to, I believe, you have access to the COVID installation of Immerse, as well as the different types of COVID-specific de-identified data warehouses as well, which we hope to review and go over in a later series. Unless there are any other questions about the process, and everybody has seemed to have gotten access immediately, but we'll be getting access soon. We're going to move to the next and final phase of today's workshop, and that is the audience-guided interactive session. So you guys in this element are Patrick Swayze, and Shivani is going to be sculpting and using her hands to actually manipulate things. We wanted to give a chance, because we knew we couldn't give you guys access beforehand, because we didn't know who would actually be showing up and who we could approve and all this kind of stuff. There was a lot of different things that were challenging behind the scenes. We do want you guys to be able to at least let us know what kind of terms you want to explore within Immerse, and get us a chance to see it kind of working in real time. We also didn't know if Immerse was going to be fully functioning and working, which it often is, but as you guys saw from earlier, sometimes technology can be a little bit finicky. So I will give control over to Shivani, and this is where you guys can either in the text chat or just by speaking up, let us know what types of things you guys want to search, what things you're interested in, and just see how Immerse itself works.
Can we take a small break?
Oh yeah, that's right. We haven't taken a break. Please, yes. So let's come back in the next 10 minutes, and then we can play around with Immerse. All right, everybody, as we are slowly getting back to our seats and our computers, this is the part of the session where we will actually get some audience participation. Feel free to just turn off your mic and then say what you would like to add to the process, or to put it into the chat. I'll be assisting Shivani and keeping her updated with the requests from the chat. But we want you guys to take this opportunity to watch us explore in the context of what you're curious in. So think about what terms that you would want to use, what you are hoping to kind of get or explore from gaining access to Immerse, and we will do our best to walk you through the process and get a better idea of what that looks like and how you may go about that.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see the Immerse UI? Cool. Okay, so Immerse login, it's just immerse.ucsf.edu, and you log in with your access. And when you first log in, there's going to be an attestation. And so you just have to select the reason you're using Immerse. So what I usually always select is education/training. And so, as you can see here, right now we're looking at all the patients that are included in Immerse, which is the 2.5 million. And it seems that some of my search terms have actually saved from my previous search. So I'm actually going to remove this, and it's just a easy drag and drop to remove these search terms so we can start fresh. So are there any search terms that you all want me to include, or maybe I could demo another social determinants of health domain?
Yeah, let us know if there are any terms that, you know, kind of are in your wheelhouse or a specific focus or interest of yours. Essentially, we are just your hands in this process. And so anywhere you want us to click around or see in more detail or zoom into or check or try, this is an opportunity for you to walk us through what you're curious in terms of Immerse. And we'll do the navigation. From Tor, we have, how about HIV, stigma, and viral load? Let's try it as a stepwise process to where we slowly incorporate some of the terms and check our results as we go along to see how they change. So as you guys can see, the deletion of different terms is a drag and trash process. So let's just start off with HIV and see what that gets us. One of the things that Shivani and I have discovered is sometimes, you know, sometimes you get some surprising results even from one term. And so starting off, you know, at very stepwise and progressing slowly is helpful. Also, because it is doing such a huge search and because it is dependent on several different factors, such as the speed of your internet, your VPN, how many people are on the server at that time, which often correlates to the time of day, we do suggest some patience. So if you do see this kind of a timer that's going around in circles, just be a little bit patient with it. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Shivani.
So just to note, any search terms you put in are case insensitive. And so if you want it to be case sensitive, there's a way to do that. So as you can see here, it's all lowercase, but it's still picked up all the uppercase as well. So yeah, so from the 2.5 million, you're looking at 281,649 patients that have the term HIV in their clinical notes. And so, you know, as I mentioned before, it's the top 100 matching documents. And so Immerse on the back end is saying, this is what I think are the top 100 matches based on your search. And so here it is. And so, yeah, so let's see. The first one, just from looking at it, it seems like, yeah, sort of, you know, getting tested.
I just pointed out to them that we didn't set a time range or criteria. And so this is the reason why that patient population is probably so large because it is the entirety of the 2.5 plus million over the course of all of their clinical notes in their clinical history. So anywhere that HIV might have come up at all.
So, right. And so this one, you know, I think it's talking about maybe some lab result. You can see here, there's a comment, HIV-1 RNA is detected, laboratory evidence of HIV-1 infection is present. And so
what you can see is that we get such a huge number of hits. And what we would do at this point is look more specifically at what those positive results are and narrow down our search criteria. So maybe we only want instances of HIV-1, or maybe we only want instances where they say HIV viral load, or where we're looking at some kind of DNA marker tests. So we'll add in different terminology and put those in quotation marks, or add things like wildcards, which Shivani can explain, or other kinds of Boolean operators to specify and narrow down more specifically. Let's continue on with the exercise and add in some of the terms that Tor also noted. They were stigma and viral load.
So the way it's searching for it, it's going to be whether a clinical note has HIV mentioned, or stigma, or viral load. So it's not using the and Boolean operator, it's using the or. If you wanted to use the and Boolean operator, that would then be considered an advanced search.
And so what she's we're getting our results now.
Sorry, I might have said it opposite. This is considering it as an and search, but if we wanted to do HIV or stigma or viral load, then that's considered an advanced search. So I said it the opposite.
Yeah. So essentially, as you can see, the number of patients has dramatically decreased. And these are patients with all three terms in each one of these designated clinical notes that are being pulled out. So you'll see them close and patched, and then you'll also see them color-coded.
Yeah, so maybe what I can do is a neat feature is that you can, if you wanted to take a better look at this, you can move patients to temporary patient list. So these are the patients, and it gives you a couple of their age, date of birth, and then you can look at their patient demographic features. And what you can do is you can click highlight documents. And it takes a bit of time for this bar to load. So you could see this patient right here with the MRN had 115 clinical notes out of 283 within the entire encounter date frame that had these terms that we're searching. Now let's just say you wanted to we could look at this as a numeric, or what I like to actually use is the Mosaic feature, which will bring back the color coding schema that we had said. So it will, I'll wait for it to load. Great. So this is an indication that this patient had the word HIV, the word stigma, and the word or the phrase viral load in their clinical notes. And as mentioned, the way that this temporary search is doing its viral load and stigma and HIV. So this is why you're seeing all three colors show up. And what you can do is I can go ahead and click on this. And this is where it displays the entirety of the clinical note. So you can do a deeper dive and actually read into it. Let's see here. So maybe I could just click on the first one. So it's great. It tells you the department name, the encounter type, the date of service. And so we can go into that. So so this is the summary that we would see in the top 100 notes. And then when you scroll down, this is the official documentation of the clinical note.
And as we saw before in the presentation, there are certain elements that are redacted to keep the document anonymized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here you could see, you know, this was where stigma was seen within the document. Let's see where viral load was seen. Yeah, so towards, and you could see it's quite an extensive clinical note, and you could see, you know, viral load showing up. And actually, you know, it's giving numbers, which is, I don't know, maybe it's helpful to your research. It's giving quite a bit of information. And so what you could do, so another feature that I was mentioning, yeah, so sorry, I'm just reading one of the comments. How do you manage that when the number floats? Yeah, so I mean, sometimes it's the matter of just kind of going through the notes. Well, at least why we're seeing such a high number of notes is because, again, we're looking through that 2.5 million number of patients versus when you're only looking, with our scenario, we were only looking at 4,100 patients, and we actually even filtered down their encounter dates to look at clinical notes within a 1 or 2 year period. So it drastically reduces the number that you would potentially have to manually review.
Yeah, be clear that natural language processing is not a replacement for, you know, the thoughtful human process of truly understanding what's going on in the clinical note and what's being said. It definitely, though, can help reduce down significantly and is a more high throughput methodology of identifying those notes that are topically relevant. And through the process of reviewing maybe a smaller percent, 5 to 10% of them, you can then identify additional terms and modifiers that you can add to your search process to be more targeted into the clinical notes. So for instance, something that pops out to me in this search is the word undetectable. That may be an additional term that we might want to tie in. Or if we don't want, if we do want viral load, but we don't want any instance where they're discussing an undetectable viral load, which would be very common, then we would use some of those other operators and advanced features that say, you know, this many from this word, viral load, this many letter spaces or syntactic structures distance from that word, we either don't want to see or we do want to see these characters and or this word in relation. And so you kind of like fine tune it to kind of like program it in a way to increase the sensitivity and specificity of your results and of the tool's ability to find what you want.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, we created a temporary list of your patients, so you can even go back and you can convert them to a saved patient list. Let's just say this is sort of what you're looking for. Let's convert it. So my name, test, and I can create it. And now this patient list is saved. So as you can see here, there were, when I was working with the diabetes cohorts, there were some missing patient IDs. So, and then this was the final cohort that we ended up using. It seems I also created a test, another test cohort, but you can compare patient lists. And this was a feature that I did not go over during the presentation, but I actually think is really neat. So let's just take the diabetes patient cohort, which is a 4,100. And then the one we just created, which I believe is this one. So as you can see here, it's telling us that there's only one patient from the cohort we just saw that's also in my diabetes cohort. So it's a really neat way to I guess, more of exploratory analyses.
I mean, every time I see that, I just feel like it's such a cool tool, and just watching the two Venn diagrams, you know, circles come together and create a new Venn diagram that shows the overlapping patient or patients that exist in two completely different explorations of patient populations using two completely different sets of terminology.
Yeah, and like the work that Will and I are doing is, I think this is particularly going to be very useful because we're looking through 20 social determinants of health domains, and I'm sure there's going to be overlap of patients who are suffering from food insecurity and also financial insecurity. And I think this is going to be a really cool way for us later down the line when we've, you know, kind of finalized our NLP lexicon to then see like how many patients within our food insecurity list are overlapped with our financial insecurity. And I would expect this number, you know, to be higher potentially, just because it's all intertwined. But yeah, it's a neat feature.
Let's use some of the other terms that were suggested, and also let's look at the time constraint feature as well. So first, let's do COVID-19, which should be.
So actually, I got just quickly. So you gotta always reset your patient list. So right now, if we included the term COVID-19, it would only search through those 67 patients we saved. So I need to go back to our patient list and then all local patients and reset it back. So then let's delete all these terms. And then, so which one? Vaccine, anxiety. And then I'll probably just put in COVID-19 as well. So when you're, I'm actually just gonna copy and paste this little chunk from the user guide into the chat box. So there's some characters that are ignored in your search term. that are non-alphanumeric. And so as you can see, examples of non-alphanumeric characters normally ignored by Immerse include, but are not limited to, a hyphen. So if we included hyphen COVID-19, that hyphen, as you can see, is ignored. And then they would suggest a corrected version of your search. And the corrected version is just one without the hyphen. Okay.
That it added quotation marks to make sure that it got both the COVID and the 19 rather than searching for COVID and 19 separately.
Yeah. Okay, and then let's go ahead and find patients. And I wonder, I don't know, I'm curious, Will, like maybe we won't come across many patients just because there's a different subset for COVID-19 data.
Well, it's my understanding that the COVID-19 patients are in this database. There's 17 with anxiety and vaccine. And that the subset is just specifically, you know, it's the same situation, but you're not searching through all the other, you don't have to add in COVID-19. All the patients in there have tested, are COVID patients, or patients that have tested positive for COVID-19. So you don't have to add in, you just know that they've had COVID-19.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so 17 patients match the search criteria. And as you can see here, Immerse was still able to pick up this COVID-19, even though we didn't include it as a terms. So it was still able to pick it up. Yeah, so.
I'm assuming that anxiety had a big impact on the number of patients that came up. And then also, because this is COVID-19, there's automatically a temporal effect. So as before, when we were searching for HIV, that was potentially over the entire course of the whole database, spanning, you know, greater than several decades. But COVID-19 is just something that has appeared in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years into this database. And so there is going to be, as you can see, these, and then with the word vaccine, that's even more temporally specific or temporally restricting. And so we're not going to find anything, or it'd be surprising to find something that is before 2020. And so we see the earliest instance of both of COVID-19 vaccine and anxiety popping up on May 13th, 2020.
And also another neat feature is this demographics thing that I also didn't show during the presentation, but it actually gives you some great figures to see, you know, sex and then current age, and your like what's the distribution of the current age of the, I think the 17 or 18 patients included in this this search. Gives you race, ethnicity, then a vital status. So yeah, marital status, which I think is the last one.
So we have a couple questions coming through. Mirna asks, one reason I included both vaccine hesitancy and vaccine anxiety was to explore whether a different set of patients would come up for each search, or would they overlap? Thanks. And that's why that was a question. So I would say that depending on how you specify your search, there is likely that you would get some overlapping patients in that. And Shivani showed a way in which you could kind of parse that out with the diagram. So we could create and save a patient cohort with vaccine and anxiety, and then we could, and then save that, and then also create one with vaccine and hesitancy, and then use that Venn diagram overlapping tool, that comparison tool, to see how many patients overlap in both of those. That would be a great exploratory exercise. But we could also work that in to how our operators are working as well, with and or operators, and potentially not operators as well. But again, this kind of, that question harkens back to the tool, the Venn diagram tool that Shivani demoed. Another question is, will anxiety detect anxieties or anxious, etc., or should we put those words separately?
Yeah, so anxiety will not detect anxieties or anxious. So you would need to put in those words separately. So maybe we could go ahead and do that. And once you start thinking about the different ways, like plurality and syntactic, just linguistics in general, and you start realizing the different ways words can be introduced, that's when you would, like, you know, go to the advanced terms and then start using your Boolean operators and wildcards. So like, yeah, let me put in anxieties and then anxious and see how that, oh, well, it's because it's searching as and, which is why we're hitting 0 patients. So maybe advanced terms is the best way to do this. So we could do anxious or
You can continue on typing, but our next question is, would you not modify the current anxiety term to include the variant terms? So one of the things that Shivani started to do and has mentioned are some of the different operators, and I mentioned as well the operator of wildcard, which is an asterisk. And so one of the ways that you can capture things that have a root structure, such as anxiety and anxieties, is by using a wildcard to capture the first portion that they all encompass, the ANX or ANXI, et cetera, of it. And then following that by a wildcard, which is the asterisks, and then that will look specifically for that root.
mm-hmm.
Correct, Tor. Yes, like COVID-19, ANX wildcard, or VACC wildcard.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And these are all search features that you can use in the advanced. And so as you can see here, when we start ORing everything, there's a lot of patients that match the search criteria. So what you can do, again, with the same process, is that you can move these patients to a temporary list, highlight their documents, and then kind of do a deeper dive on all their clinical notes. But as you can see, this is quite a bit of notes you would have to go through. And so this is where the filters really come into play. And then, yeah, so let's just say we were interested in patients with COVID-19 and those who have received vaccine. So maybe I could just do And then
So Deepalika asked, and I'll answer this. So UCSF has seen over 800,000 patients since COVID started. That's not what this is saying. What this is saying is that there are over 800,000 patients where COVID-19 is mentioned in their clinical note. So this is not the cohort of patients who have tested positive for COVID-19. This is a cohort of patients in which, in their clinical note, there is a mention of COVID-19. There is a separate database that has specifically COVID-19 positive patients. And they're currently working on an additional database where for vaccine.
there we go. So yeah, and Will, while you were talking, I had an error in my search term, and so I don't know if people were looking, but it showed up, and I clicked on it, and it told me what was wrong, and it was just because I was missing a quote right there. So this would search for patients with COVID-19 and vaccination, and it's only 5. Oh, sorry. You know what? You don't need quotes here because it's gonna search for the word. There we go.
So additional questions are trying to see what one has to do to make an effective query on a topic such as this. It really is a process. You start off in the most broad sense and stepwise with each one of the words to see what your results are. Then you continue to modify and narrow down to drill down and get more specific results. Once you drill down and you kind of have a base of terms, then you want to analyze a few documents, a certain percentage of documents. And honestly, it doesn't usually take that many to identify terms that either produce false negatives and or false positives. And so you identify those terms and then you add them into your Boolean operators or your more advanced search with Boolean operators in order to make your search strategy more sensitive and more powerful. It also says, thanks, just out of curiosity, how many patients on average does UCSF see in the month? So I'm not sure in terms of COVID-19. So if somebody else has the answer to that, then please feel free to answer that. But again, the process that we went through in order to get you guys access to Immerse also gets you access, or should get you access, to the COVID-specific Immerse instance of the database. And those, you won't even have to worry. It'll say up in the top right-hand, left-hand corner on how many patients there actually are that you're searching through. The other thing that we were hoping to demo or give an example of in our user case is the power of mixing both Patient Explorer and Immerse together. So you can create a patient cohort through Patient Explorer with all these other criteria of where they were seen and how they were seen and what their diagnoses were and what procedures they had, as well as add in temporality, to account for seasonal effects and things like that. And then download that, or save and download that patient cohort, and then work with the data scientists at Bakar or in the Bakar or UCSF data group to have a walkover to Patient Explorer and then find those patients, drill down to those patients as well. So you get an even more powerful effect when you're using both of these tools together. Unfortunately, these tools are not linked together automatically, and you do have to do that walkover, and often that will require some assistance. But both of those tools, as you can see, are fairly user-friendly tools that don't require really high and advanced levels of programming. And there, in addition, there is a lot of documentation, user documentation that goes along with this to help walk you through the process or get you to the resources or people that can best help you with your query.
Yeah, and just quickly, one more thing that I wasn't able to talk about is that if you can go to saved terms, you can actually see what other people are working on, which I think is really cool, and it produces new ideas and maybe things you missed and other people got. So there's some folks that are working on Alzheimer's, asthma. You're seeing a couple of COVID related terms. It's all over the place. And so I think this really helps with potential reproducibility and just, collaborating with other colleagues.
So we're coming up on time, I believe, but definitely want to allow for any questions that anybody else may have. Oh, really briefly, something that the upload terms. Can you say anything about that as well? Have you ever used the to the right next to save terms?
Oh, the chat screen was blocking it. Yes, so I have never used it, but I was curious about this, and you can actually have a text file, and you can upload a text file of terms. I have personally not used this, so I'm not sure how effective it is, or whether this is also applicable to advanced terms, which I don't think it is, but there is really great documentation on how to do this in that user guide that I linked during the slide presentation.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, I was going to ask, do you guys have anything published on describing using natural language processing, especially around social determinants of health or language bias, patient-provider communication, any of those areas?
So we did recently submit a paper on, it was a scoping review of the application of natural language processing specific to opioids, and I believe as well social determinants of health, right, Shivani?
No, unfortunately not. Social determinants of health.
That's
Yeah.
opioids and natural language processing, to look at how it's being applied, by other people. But there is publications on social determinants of health and natural language processing that's emerging. There's a lot of people in the informatics field that have written some papers on that, and they all have different processes. Some are developing new algorithms and tools from scratch Others are leveraging the tools that have been developed in other places and coming up with new methodologies for approaching it. But there is the literature is not deep. And there's a lot of growth in this field for sure.
Yeah.
Unrelated to natural language processing, there also is a growing amount of literature on social determinants of health in structured clinical structured clinical data and in unstructured clinical notes. A lot of that has been worked on by one of our own UCSF faculty members, Matt Pentel, and another one, Laura Gottlieb. And Laura Gottlieb is the director of the Siren Network, which is the group that developed the Compendium for Social Risk Factors that specifically identifies ICD codes and terminologies and categorizes them according to 12 different instances of social determinants of health, and relates them to multiple clinical vocabularies that are also available in the UMLS, the Unified Medical Language System. I hope that answered your question. That was a lot.
Thanks, that was helpful.
And then while you were talking, Will, I just quickly, there was a comment in the chat to search for, search using phrases to exclude. So to include anxious and then exclude not anxious. And so these are just some of the hits we got. So hopefully this helps.
So what's going on here is these will be all instances. So what I'm understanding is these will be all instances where not only are these positive syntactic and lexicon hits for anxious, but they're positive hits for instances of anxiousness or the use of anxious rather than somebody describing not anxious. Right. Okay. And it's a simple process of just putting in your included terms and then your phrases to exclude. Well, this concludes our presentation, everybody. We want to say thank you to everyone. Shivani, if you can close your screen share. Thank you to everyone for joining us and learning about these new tools. And hopefully you guys will have access soon and start playing around with some of these things. Also, just to say that we are working on papers, and I have myself, there have been multiple papers published purely from exploratory and methodological exploratory analyses using these tools, as well as methodological papers on the use and application of these tools in specific domains. So even for trainees or for faculty, you can begin a body of research and work using these tools. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.